Can we go live? Oh, we are live. Hi, this is the Senate Government Operations Committee on Tuesday, March 19th, 2024, and we are going to take a look at H 629 that we just received from the House on changes to property tax abatement and tax sales. And we have Kirby, well, actually, we're going to start with Carl. I'm sorry, Representative Demro. Do you want to come up and
Sure.
just give us very high level conversation, what happens, what is this bill, why and how, and all that.
Certainly, thank you, Madam Chair. And hello, Madam Chair, members of the committee. For the record, Representative Carl Demro, the floor reporter for H 629. The bill really combined a couple of different bills, one that GovOps had on abatement and one that Ways and Means had on tax sales. So just very high level, sort of the things that changes or the changes to existing law in these bills are that the first section of the bill amends 24 VSA 1535 with language that allows municipalities to abate de minimis amounts of taxes for purpose of reconciling municipal accounts according to generally accepted accounting practices. That was a separate standalone bill that got oiled into this. And then the other big piece around abatements was we allowed towns to hear abatement requests from a class of landowners. And the example that was used was you have a bunch of landowners on one block of a city where all of their properties burned to the ground, or you have a class of landowners where all of their properties are wiped out by the flood. It gives towns the tool of doing that. It could potentially save some.
Sorry, tool to do what?
To handle a class of landowners.
Wow.
Yeah, to abate a class.
I eat more than, what's the class, more than 2 or 3?
It would be probably more than one.
Maybe it's defined in the bill.
I don't remember that we defined it. I don't
Or
recall
bill
that
tells.
was defined in the bill. I think it was just, more than.
A group of similar requests for abatement
Right.
as a class, so
Yeah.
just a group of similar requests makes the class.
Two and
Yes, 629, you all should have paper copies,
You do.
and it's also on the website.
So the other pieces were around tax sales and the bill requires language. Well, I'm going to sort of run through the floor for it here just really quickly. So Section 2 of the bill creates a notice that informs taxpayers of the ability to request abatement and how to seek abatement. That would go along with basically on the bill backer on your property tax bill. Section 3 amends 32 VSA 6065 subsection B to add an explanation how to file for a property tax credit to the property tax bill backer provided by the Department of Taxes. And it has directs taxpayers to a resource where they can get translations of non-English languages if needed. And it requires municipalities to provide the bill backer notice to all residential properties instead of just those that file a homestead declaration. Section 4 amends 32 VSA 5252 to require delinquency of 1 year before a collector of taxes can initiate a tax sale. And it requires the municipality to offer a reasonable payment plan to a taxpayer before it initiates a tax sale and establishes some rules around payment plans. Subsection A3 adds language that requires one attempt at personal service pursuant to Rule 4 of the Vermont Rules of Civil Procedure for someone facing a tax sale. If the last known address of the delinquent taxpayer is in Vermont and an attempt at personal service fails, the collector shall affix the notice to the exterior door of the property subject to tax sale. Subsection A4 requires a notice of tax sale sent to a delinquent taxpayer or a lien holder to include an explanation of how to pay overdue taxes, fees, and interest to prevent the tax sale from happening. And it offers a resource for the notice to be translated in non-English languages. Section 5 amends 32 PSA 5253 to add language to the form used to advertise a tax sale, explaining that the owner has the right to redemption for 1 year after a tax sale occurs.
Don't they already have that?
What's that?
They already have that, right?
I don't think that's,
Don't they have a year?
they do have a year, but I don't think that the language added, the language that's used to add, the language that is used to advertise a tax sale necessarily talks about that redemption period. Section 6 amends 32 VSA 5260 to reduce the monthly interest rate the taxpayer has to pay during the redemption period from 1% to 0.5%. That's the interest that goes to the person who buys the property at tax sale if it's redeemed. Right now, that percentage is 1%. So if an investor buys a property at a tax sale and the owner who owns it redeems it 11 months in, they would be responsible for basically 11%. Paying that to the person who invested 11%.
Correct. Now, and where does that go? Does that go to the town?
No, goes to the investor.
To the person who bought the
Person who bought
Martine?
it at tax sale.
Martine's
Committee, education.
unit? Sorry, the percent goes to the future purchasers,
Correct.
and so we're reducing that?
Reducing it by half.
Okay.
In order to make it easier for people to redeem their properties.
That the objective?
Yes. The objective was to make it less financially onerous to redeem.
So that's sort of the overall objective of this bill?
The objective is to, I would say the objective is to standardize tax sales around the state. And simplify.
And to simplify it and to make it less onerous for people who are going through.
Yeah.
Having to go through a tax.
Yeah, I mean, you're hoping to avoid a tax sale by the personal service piece, right? Some of the language pieces. Section 6 with changing that percentage is really meant to make it easier for someone
To make it.
to keep a property.
All right, Senator Watson, do you have a question?
Just thinking about bringing my ignorance, but the logic of the redemption is, I just want to check my thinking on this. So is it that the lien holder has some amount of money, they might be getting interest on it elsewhere. If they have purchased this lien or hold this lien, that this is interest that they're accruing on that amount, is that?
Yeah, you can think of it, you can think of someone who buys a property at tax sale. They really can't make any investment in that property for a year because of that redemption period. They may not, the property may get redeemed and then they won't hold it. What it does is creates an incentive for someone to purchase a property at tax sale, really. Because otherwise there's no income that would come from that money.
Okay.
Yeah, the other problem that our bill addresses is they can't protect it either, they can't do anything on that.
Right.
The person who
Yeah.
buys it at tax sale.
They buy it at tax sale, they don't get title to it until the redemption period is passed and the property is not redeemed.
All right.
And then there's still two more, I'm sure,
Go
there's
for
still
it.
two more
Yes,
sections of the
please.
bill here. So section 6 further requires that the tax collector provide notice to a delinquent taxpayer whose house was sold at a tax sale about the rights to redemption and offer a resource for the notice to be translated into non-English languages. There's also a working group, section 7 is created to assess how Vermont may balance fairness for delinquent taxpayers within these municipalities. And that working group will provide recommendations for the following issues. Allowing a delinquent taxpayer to recoup the lost equity in their property when it is sold at a tax sale. Standardizing and ensuring fairness in the abatement process across Vermont municipalities. requiring a minimum amount of tax debt before a tax sale can be initiated, allowing less time to pass before a tax sale can be initiated when a property is abandoned, and whether a 0.5% rate of monthly interest paid by delinquent taxpayers for purchasers during the redemption period causes a reduction in municipalities' abilities to receive bids on properties at tax sales. Then section 8 and section 9 are effective dates essentially.
Okay. Are there any questions for Representative Demerara? Yeah, well, we've already asked you.
Yeah, sure.
Go ahead,
Just
Susan.
clarify sorry, I'm just. The percent rate, the monthly rate that's paid by delinquent. Oh my God. Oh, look.
Well, she did a good job in Senate
Thank you.
appropriations.
And she needs to be more.
We don't have forks, you know.
I have a fork,
fork.
don't
That's
worry.
fine. Thank you, Ginny. Really appreciate it.
That is so nice. Was it somebody's birthday or?
It's
Jane
Jane's
just likes-
extra cake, and I said, if you're gonna take the money out, I want a piece of cake. And
Uh-oh.
I left another cake, and so that was
Oh,
letting me eat
great
cake.
for you,
I
Chair
know.
Hardy.
Anyway, sorry to interrupt.
No, I'm just puzzled. So a person is in dire straits, can't pay their taxes. Their property is foreclosed on and they have to sell it. Because they haven't paid the taxes. They have a year to redeem that, I get that. I didn't know that they then had to pay the purchaser 1% every month. On what value? What's the 1% based on?
It's based on what that purchaser pays at tax sale, so,
So it's based on the price paid at tax
yeah,
sale, and it's 1%
per month.
a month to the purchaser. They have to pay that, so they can't pay their taxes, but they're asked on top to pay this
Mhm.
1% to the purchaser.
Yeah.
Got it?
Did you,
So the bill reduces that to.
So,
half of
I know, I appreciate that. Okay, so where is the town challenged here? Why is VLCT opposing this bill so fully?
Well, I think you'd have to ask
Then,
them
We will.
that question. I certainly could,
we'll ask them. No, you don't need to speculate.
okay,
What was the vote in committee on the bill?
on Ways and Means anyway.
vote in committee was 9-3-0.
Okay, and on the floor, was it a voice vote or was there a?
No.
On the floor, no, it was a roll call.
I think it was. H629.
It was roll call.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
we'll figure it out then.
I don't remember.
Okay, are there any suggestions for witnesses or things we should?
So I can tell you who we heard from. So, yes, definitely give you some suggestions there. So, of course, we heard from the league and legal aid. We also heard from the advocacy director at AARP Vermont. We heard from collector of delinquent taxes in Greensboro, Vermont. We heard from an attorney in Dorset, Vermont, who handles tax sales. We heard from the community action taxpayer assistant at Capstone Community Action. And we heard from the advocacy and public policy director from the Vermont Association of Directors.
Okay, great.
Oh, wait. Also, we heard from the Vermont Municipal Clerks and Treasurers Association. And the president of the Vermont Bankers Association.
Okay,
The
I'm gonna
town-
stop you there because
Okay.
we're on time. Thank
Sure.
you. We'll look it up. Thank you.
Happy to
For-
come back if you need me.
Yeah, if we need you when we have more people. We're gonna hear quickly from Kirby from because you have to leave in 5 minutes, right? So we're gonna get a really quick walkthrough. I have to leave to go to finance. So why don't you stay so we can continue to have quorum in this room? We'll get a quick walkthrough and we might have you back, Kirby. We'll definitely have you back.
So we're down to 3 out of
And then
6.
I'm
Oh,
gonna have Becca. So
right, Becca, thank you.
So we have just.
I'm here.
Can stay with, thank you, Carl.
Thanks.
Um,
Yeah, Kirby, I'm
Welcome to
gonna
you.
leave, I'm gonna go back to committee here.
Yeah, he has to leave
He
in
has to
5
leave in
minutes.
5 minutes
Thanks.
and then
So
we'll go off.
just do super high level.
The vote
overview.
in the House was 92 to 44. There were 136 members present and
Thank you.
voting. There are usually 49. Well, there's 150, but the speaker doesn't vote unless it's a veto override or a tie.
Yeah, and the chair of the Springfield Select Board voted against it. Christy Morris. I mean, this, I know there are a lot of concerns.
Yes. Thank you.
Hi.
If you wanna walk us through high level.
Sure, Kirby King from the council. I think Representative Demro really did hit the high points. So for a quick walkthrough, I would say, yeah, the first two sections of the bill cover abatement. And, you know, there's just a number of changes, with abatement there. I think that specifying the Board of Abatement has to issue a written decision and giving some details about, what's included in that decision is, a big part of it.
Do they not have to do that now?
It's, there's not a lot in current law about what has to be done, so there's a lot of variability across the state.
So by putting that in law, we create more economic or not economic, but regional geographic justice.
Yeah,
Yeah, and it also provides the boards of abatement, some guidance about what they should be doing. You know, there's the abatement as a class, which was H 641. And then there was the ability for the legislative body to abate de minimis amounts of taxes. I'm not sure if Representative Demro covered that one. That was from H 19, a different bill. And the ability for municipalities or the requirement for municipalities to provide notice to the taxpayer and the ability to request abatement. And there's a lot of provisions throughout this about notice provisions for taxpayers to either request abatement or to be able to know the right to redemption. The other high points to cover quickly would be the preventing a municipality from initiating a tax sale until a taxpayer is delinquent for 1 year is one of the major changes.
where's that?
That's page 7 or 8, it's section 4.
Okay. And
That would be one that I imagine the league would want to talk to you about.
sorry, show us where on page 7.
So on page 10, I see a municipality shall not initiate a tax sale proceeding until it has offered delinquent. So I see some of it on page 10, but it looks like
It's
it's that whole
page
section.
7, line 6.
Oh, yep.
So the language for a period longer than 1 year, and then the additional language about a reasonable repayment plan is another major requirement that's added by the bill. And the language for the reasonable repayment plan is,
Does no town have that now? Does no town do a reasonable payment plan now? Do they only?
there was testimony that some towns offer something like that, but there's no, uniform approach to that.
So that's what Carl said is one of the objectives, is that it be,
Mhm.
this is more uniform around.
Mhm. And a lot of this concept was taken from something that the PUC does through regulation when disconnecting utilities. So that's a similar thing in existing law. So the reasonable repayment plan, the 1 year before a tax sale can be initiated. There was discussion in the House about whether to set it at a year or set it at a certain amount. But the reason that the House did not choose a certain amount, like say $5,000 of interest, charges, taxes due, was because for some properties that don't have a lot of value, say a mobile home, that could mean many years being back on taxes, and then makes it less likely for that person to ever catch up. And then for other properties, of course, that could be, if it's set at 5,000, that could be 1 year. So they set it based on time rather than debt. And I think the interest rate amount of 0.5, which was discussed before, is another major change.
Yeah, that is a major change.
And I think that's it. And I'm not sure that Representative Demro mentioned that in section 8 of the bill, there's just some clarifying session law that states that for abatement or abatement requests that are underway, the abatement provisions wouldn't apply to something that's already in progress. Same thing for a tax sale that's already in progress. Except that some of the notice requirements would apply for the in progress tax sales.
Yes, another person.
Kirby, do we have any notion of how many tax sales there are here?
Vermont Legal Aid testified that they have some data, they did a survey of municipalities to find out this information. I don't remember the exact numbers, but, the sort of landscape they painted was that many municipalities don't do this at all. And then some municipalities have several a year,
Well,
and
that makes sense.
so some of them use it to just incentivize taxpayers to catch up on their taxes, so they're very quick to start the tax up process when someone gets behind. And others use other approaches. But I don't know the exact number.
So just to follow, I guess, so we don't know how many there are here. And currently we look at our town reports and people's delinquent taxes are listed all the time, the sort of shaming pages, which everyone turns to immediately. It's funny to watch. I mean, you could stand at the back of town hall and everybody sits down with their town reports and first thing most people do is look at the back. Anyway, my point is, there are people on there that have been there for 2 or 3 years. At what point now are towns legally able to pursue a tax sale? Is it what? I thought it was a year.
I'm not sure exactly what you're referring to. Is this?
How many years do you not pay your property taxes? And then the town can.
Right now, it could be you missed one payment, you're late once, and the process.
So
could
that's
be
not
initiated.
uniform? So that's part of what, when he talks about the uniformity statewide, right now you can miss, nobody
Yes.
does a tax.
There's
sale.
They may not do it, but they
there's
could.
no time limit under current law. You could look at, on page 7, we were looking at, ignore the underline and use, the current law is. When a collector of taxes for a town or municipality within its, for collection of tax assessed against real estate in the town, the taxpayer is delinquent, comma, when the taxpayer is delinquent, comma, the collector may extend a warrant on such land.
Thanks. Yeah, in the BPR article that we sent us, I was
Yeah.
some talk about that.
Oh, right, yeah,
Where
right.
we were surprised that like, it's not very much, late ones or something.
Yeah, no, that piece was great.
Yeah.
No, but I hadn't appreciated that was not a uniform standard law, that you had X period of time for you.
Well, and I also imagine that if a municipality does have a repayment plan, that might take more than, it might take a year before they, initiate it, and it might be an extended period of time for them to repay it. Tough to say.
Going to what you were saying before too, one change in the bill is that currently, the taxpayer has to be given, if they're a resident of the town, they have to be given 10 days notice in the current law before the sale. This is changing it to 30, and it's also changing it from 20 to 30 for non-residents. Some of the scenario you're talking about, like worst case scenario would be a person's delinquent once, tax sale is immediately initiated, and they're given 10 days notice, and there's a tax 10 days later.
Pretty speedy.
Wonderful, thank you. I imagine we will certainly have you back, but I know that you and Senator Watson need to go. We are gonna lose quorum